So, yeah, Devanshi. So, how would want to introduce yourself for someone who does not know who you are?
All right, so I've been writing for 10 years. Hello, everyone. I am Devanshi, and I am an author by, heart and soul. And I've recently started up Mithas Services, which is a one stop solution for content writing, designing, financial services, and anything and everything that you require. So basically, it's like a one stop for all the vendor requirements that you have. And the
Okay.
idea kind of comes from the fact that people require different services and they have to juggle with a lot of new people. So the whole idea is to give them one stop solution for everything that they require.
Yeah. So, for new writers who just want to start out in the writing world, they feel that it's just they sitting down with their laptop, penning down ideas, and one day it would come out as a book on Amazon, and they will start sharing links and all, purchase my book, etc. It's
Right,
not the
right.
it's not the same. That's what I have studied till now. But would you run through what all who all are the people who are involved in the process of a book writing?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with the fact that yes, it's not just about, writing when we talk of writing a book or publishing a book. In
Yeah.
case you really want to reach out to people, you want people to read your story, it's really important to kind of, understand the publishing process. You correctly pointed out there are a lot of stakeholders in that journey. It's a complete lifetime, that you're building up together. So there are reviewers, there are editors, there are designers, the illustrators, and the marketing team that club together in order to make the publishing team. So it's obviously not just that you've written and there's this angel who comes in your life and publishes the book. It is a complete process. These are a lot of services that are involved in it. So yeah.
So, who does what? Like, if there is a writer, I guess there's a publisher, I guess there's a marketing team, I guess that there is someone
Yeah,
who designs. So, what all role do
sure.
they play?
So you have to break the publishing part into the things that I just mentioned. It's more about a person writing a book, after which the reviewer kind of reviews the whole script, does developmental edits, editing portions, the grammatical errors. Then there is the designer who's working upon the illustrations if they are required in the book cover, the whole details around how the look and feel of the book is going to be. And then there's the marketing team who helps in bringing out or reaching out to the readership that's interested in the kind of genre that you've worked upon and the kind of language that you've written in. So it's basically like, I really like breaking publishing into these services because it is about these things that make publishing. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole journey.
So, now that you explained, that this is the process through which any writer would have to run through if they want to get their book in market. Next, I want to
Yes,
ask you
yes.
is that what, like, if you could put numbers to this thing, that how much initial investment is required for a newbie writer to bring this book in market and to successfully, advertise it so that people actually read it and purchase and read it.
Right. So, when we speak of numbers, so it's kind of difficult to define, that this is the number that one person would require, or this is the amount that you can get from a book. It completely depends upon the story, upon the way you are marketing it, right? It's not really a necessity product that we bring it out in the market and we know that this is the investment I'm going to put and this is what I'm going to get. It's
Yeah.
more about the art form. It's about how you are presenting your story. It's also about how you are marketing it. So I absolutely agree that the art form is one part of how well your book does. The other part, of course, is how well are you marketing it, how smartly are you marketing it. So you may want to put in crores and crores of money in the marketing, but how effective is that marketing becomes a very important part. So for me personally, there isn't say a number that you have to invest and what you can return or what you can get as returns. It's more about the fact that how effectively are you using the amount that you have and how much revenue you make through the journey. So I would want to keep it as a case by case study for these books.
Yeah. So, what you said that it actually depends on what is your, like, motive and which audience are you targeting in your marketing process. But I'm
Right.
sure that there must be some fixed costs, like the publishing fee, the designer costs and all. So what are the, like, this is the base minimum amount that you need
Mm-hmm.
to have in your pocket if you even want to dream of publishing a book. So what is that fixed
No,
amount?
so I think there is the publishing industry that you need to understand for it, right? That
Yeah.
there are traditional publishers, there are self-publishers. So when we talk of the traditional publishers, they do not charge anything for publishing a book. When you speak of self-publishers, they have different ideas in order to charge for the services they are providing, or sometimes they kind of go ahead with a revenue-based model. So
Yeah.
again, it's kind of not really fair to put in, say, this is the amount that we are going to put, or this is the amount that we are going to invest into it. I think it completely depends from person to person.
Okay, so having said that, I'll reference an article that I read on Quora because I was researching for this podcast, and that read that
Sure, sure,
if
sure.
that read that if you are a newbie in your college and you just had this wonderful idea that okay, I'm going to publish a book, you need to
Correct.
have bare minimum of 25 to 30K in your wallet if you genuinely want the book to reach certain shelves, if you want the book to reach Amazon and all. At least 25K is the
Right.
minimum amount that you need as a beginner's investment. So how far this is true
Hmm.
and how much is of this is in HOX?
So I kind of do not know the context in which these numbers have been given, or by which publisher have they been given. For me personally, I don't think that you can kind of define that. Okay, you're writing a book, you just take a stone given thing that okay, 30,000 is required. Sometimes some books require way too much of marketing as compared to the others. So I would want to stick with the fact that there isn't a number that you can say without knowing the script, because that's really
Okay.
unfair to one, the script,
Okay.
also to the writer, because every script is different. Also, every writer has a perspective of marketing it. So I wouldn't say that I can put a cost to it and say that okay, this is the amount that you should be working upon. So
Yeah.
it completely depends. I've kind of and just adding to it, I've kind of seen writers not investing too much into the marketing part, and their books have been doing amazingly well. So people who are just publishing, or foreign authors who are just writing on Kindle or Juggernaut, I think I've seen them do really well in terms of their marketing. So for me, there isn't a cost that defines the book. It's the book or the quality of the book that defines how much would you want to market the book, right? So that's what I would like to stick to.
Cool. So once again, going to the marketing part of your book, how much is it
Sure.
important to have your own distribution network? Distribution network, as in, how much is it required that you have a social presence, you have a media presence, that X
Yeah.
number of people actually know you, so that you just have to send in one message that hey, I've written a book, and those people come to know that okay, this book is releasing soon. So how much of a network is actually required?
I think very much. I mean, if you ask me out of 100, I would say 80% of what your marketing should be online, because that's where everyone is. One, online marketing kind of gives you that reach to a lot of people without you being physically present.
Yeah.
That's one part about being socially present. The second thing I would say is also about the details that social media can reach out to so many people. It can take the details of your book to them. I think that's the power of it. And sometimes just an Instagram story can do wonders. So for me, if you ask me, social media is like the base of your marketing for a book. Above it, of course, there are offline events, there are other things as well. But also, considering the fact that in these last 2-3 months, we as publishers have seen a rise in the ebook sales. We've kind of seen people really engaging with the ebook format. All those who were really close to paperback, they've also started reading much online. So I think that's really got a boom for the ebook sector. That's one. And also, when you are present online, you are just a click away from your reader. So I think that's really important. And if you ask me, social media presence is the most important part of the book marketing plan.
Cool. So next I wanted to ask you was that we know certain names which are big in the publishing industry like Penguin India and many others.
Sure.
Now I have been to their websites as to like if someone wants to publish a book, like what is the process and
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And I've seen that they have a certain kind of drop box, like you fill a form, you upload your details and all. And if they get back to you, it's good and then you can talk further. Otherwise, forget about it. But
Sure.
I've spoken to a lot of budding writers who want to write books, and their perspective is like lakhs and thousands of people would be sending in their entries, their ideas to this huge publishing house. What are the chances
Sure.
that my idea would even reach in front of their eyeballs? Like they would even see my thing. So I want to ask you, from a publisher standpoint, do these big publishing houses actually scan through every idea that reaches them, or is it just that they only help big names in publishing their books?
Sure. So I'm going to talk about Srishti Publishers because with them I have been publishing for around 3.5, 4 years now, and they're pretty big in terms of their distribution and the name in the Indian marketing and Indian publishing industry. So for me, if you ask, I shared the proposal online with them. I shared it for the second book as well. It did not get through. Right? I was in 12th. It did not work through with them. The third one, no matter what I do, when I shared it with them, it wasn't that I went through a literary agent or I knew them personally. It was through the proposal that I shared. So with my own experience, I really feel that the publishers who are genuine enough, who are doing pretty well, they go through the scripts. I got to them because they kind of saw each and every proposal that they got. So I feel that what's required is not to kind of think that, hey, I'm not going to get through. It's more about the story that you're working on. See, at the end of the day, the publishers need stories to sell better, right? So it's important that you invest better in terms of your thoughts, your stories, and first think of writing a good story and then thinking of publishing it. I think that's what's more important, to reach out to a better publisher.
Understood. In this, I wanted to ask, in the writing space, in the writing industry, how important, like,
Yes.
I won't say important, important is a wrong word. I'll say, how useful is it that you have your names published in big newspaper in certain segments? Like, you send your articles to Times of India, Hindustan Times, and if they
Yeah.
publish certain articles with your name as the writer, how much does it add a feather in your cap as in the writing industry?
Yeah. See, so I think that considering any industry, print medium is a strong medium of reaching out to people. For those who are not on social media, they are reading newspapers every day, right? So my grandmother reads the newspaper every morning. She kind of sees each and every news. So you have one audience that's present online who doesn't really, care about if the article is there in the Times of India or the Hindustan Times. They're very happy with the fact that, okay, I can see the person on Instagram. That's what is important for me. That's one part of the audience. The other part, which is a very large percentage, is not there on social media, and they really like getting that authentic information from newspapers. So I think that, be it any industry, including the writing industry, I think it kind of adds a golden feather to the cap, of course. But nevertheless, when I'm speaking of it, I would also want to include here that it's not that you can get your articles or you can get yourself in the newspapers and then the book will do amazingly well. It's not that. It's just that it brings an authentic essence to who you are. I think that's there.
It separates you from the crowd.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And also, while I'm just talking about it, I would say that there are a lot of authors these days who really are putting in a lot of money to get published. The whole thing published in the newspapers. So my only suggestion to them would be that, hey, don't pay someone to take your interview, right? Let it come organically. Let it come and let your work speak through it. When that happens, that's when you feel blessed to kind of be there in the interview. So my suggestion would be that.
So in having this box checked, I would next want to ask you that if there is a student who is passionate about some thought, let's say, suppose if I'm passionate about podcasting, for the pursuit of this example, and I have a lot of ideas about podcasting, the way it is, the future predictions and all, for sure I can pen down 200 pages. It won't be the best curated book, but it would just be a beginner's guide to podcasting. That's what I can curate. Okay. Now, taking the consideration that suppose I have putting numbers to it, I have 0 rupees to spend behind publishing, marketing, etc., etc. What are the means to get out my book in the market?
Yeah, so I think you can publish your own book yourself. So basically, when you are, interested in getting it through, one is either you get a traditional publisher who can do that for you. If not that, you will have to kind of figure out a better way, maybe putting it up on a Juggernaut or putting it up on an ebook platform where people can read it. Here, I would just want to mention one thing, that when you say that you do not want to invest any anything into it, then you'd also have to ensure that you are able to design the book yourself, you're able to edit the book yourself. So basically the whole idea here, if you ask me, you're a student and you want to write a book. Now, that thing having said, you really need to be sure about the editing part. You need to be sure about the services that we were talking of. How much can you invest in them? Like how much in terms of your energy or skills can you invest in them?
Yeah,
For
content curation
for
basically.
Yes, exactly. So I think to start with, my suggestion would be that you start doing an ebook. Try to figure out your market, right? You're stepping into the market, so test who are the people who would want to read what you've written. That's the first step for a beginner without any investment, and then after which you kind of can come up with your ebook. You can kind of write on Juggernaut. You can come up with an Audible book as well. So these are the things that you could really do without investing too much into it.
Understood. Next to you would be that right now digital is booming a lot, and
Yeah,
with like, so books were the written form of content, and right now
sure.
if we talk about digital, apart from ebooks, there is a thing blogging, that is the digital form of written media. Okay, so, how much do you think writing books and people who write books, their market has been affected because of bloggers who just upload quick blogs? Like, if you want to, let's say, fix a mobile application, there's a 1 minute read
Yes.
article, just read that and you're done with it. So, how much is the book industry being affected by
See, so this question is like, how much has Netflix affected the people who are going out for movies? It's more of that how much have the web series affected the people who were watching movies? And for me, if you ask me, like, I've been doing a lot of workshops around writing. I've been meeting a lot of bloggers, also authors, right? So for me, the audience that's interested in blogs is completely separate from the audience who loves reading books, or reading thrillers, romance, non really interested in blogging. Is completely different from the audience that is interested in reading fiction or non-fiction. The reason also, I'll tell you, the audience for blogging is crisp, precise people who aren't too much into reading. They just want to have the gist of it very quickly. That's the
that?
audience who go to bloggers, right? And for fiction, they are the readers who want to have the reading experience. They want to live the character's life. They want to learn something from the story. So
Yeah,
for me, the audience is very different in terms of their character traits and the way they want to read. So that's why I think the blogging and writing can definitely coexist together.
yeah. Understood. So a question which is similar to this, but not exactly the same, is that
Sure.
we are reading on the internet a lot that because of excessive use of social media, because of excessive use of mobile phones, as a generation, our attention span is reducing a lot. Like every passing year,
Yes.
our attention span goes down. In saying that, amidst all the formats of media, like if you take into consideration video, if you take into consideration podcast, books are the one that take the most time to consume. Like to read a book, you just can't sit in an hour and finish a book. In
Right.
podcasts,
Right.
in saying that podcasts are also long form content, but podcasts are something which you can just
Sure.
sleep and consume. Like someone else is speaking, you just
Correct.
have the liberty to sleep and listen to that. Books, a person needs
Sure.
to be invested in it to read through the entire pages. So do you think reducing attention span has taken a hit on book market as a whole?
Right. So not really, in terms of books and podcasts. Again, I feel that both of them can coexist. Why not, right? Because I am a person who loves reading. I'm also a person who loves hearing to podcasts. So why not can they coexist together?
Yeah,
Again, the second thing about the attention span is that, see, as much as you say that, you can sleep and hear to a podcast, it's important to have interest into that podcast, right?
yeah,
Similarly, when you are reading a book, you really want to be invested into it, and therefore you have to be interested in the story to read further. The
yeah,
whole idea in either of them is the creative process. So how much are you hooked to reading a story, how much are you hooked to listening a podcast or seeing a podcast? So I think that's very important, and that kind of becomes the deciding factor for a viewer, for a listener, or a reader, if they'd want to continue with it. also I agree on the attention span part, that yes, it has reduced. However, when you are, consuming some interesting content, you'll go on and on and on seeing it. The
Yeah.
best example of it is the web series. If you're really interested into one of them, you will binge watch the whole night and complete it, right? And if you're not
True.
interested, even when you have hours and hours, you're not going to read it, or I'm sorry, watch it.
Watch
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Understood. So next, what I wanted to ask to you is a question which not from the writer's point of view, but a lot of audience have this question, that
Sure.
they, I know a lot of people in my friends and also online, I know a lot of people who are essentially
Yes.
college going or school going students. And these guys, to the core of their heart, they respect the writers, they respect the author, but they do not have the finances to purchase the book. And
Sure.
these are the kids who at their core hate plagiarism. Like, they do not support the fact that you steal someone's content, upload it online to read for free. But
Yes. Yes.
what their logic goes is that, dude, this book is going to teach me something. Right now I don't have the funds to pay it, so okay, I'll use one of these black check websites. I will get
Hmm.
the book for free. I'll get the soft copy for free. I'll read through it. I'll learn out of it. In future, when I'll become rich, when I'll grow in life, I would financially help the author. So I know for a fact that this is a very vague idea to put into, but this is what
Yeah.
genuinely a lot of students go through. So as a writer, what is your take on this opinion, and what is your advice to people who cannot financially purchase the books?
Sure. So, that is an amazing question. Also, because of the fact that I have been traveling a lot to different colleges before the lockdown for Mithas, right?
Yeah.
So, we were there in most of the Delhi University colleges. We were in a lot of other colleges in Indore as well. So, one thing when we had our stall in their fest, Morris, is that one person entering into the fest is not coming, with a blank pocket. They do have money. It's
Yeah.
about the student's choice on which part of the fest would you want to invest.
Yeah.
I was a student 3 years back. I kind of have gone through the same thing as well. When I used to enter my college fest, I had money in my bag, right? And that's when I had to decide, okay, this is the amount that I have. Say I have a 500 note. So when am I going to spend this? Do I want to spend it on food? Where do I want to invest it in? Do I want to spend it in games or books? So it's a student's choice as to where they want to spend their money. If you see the pricing of a lot of books, I'm not talking about the international ones, but in the Indian market, the pricing is really affordable right now. So you get a book for, say, one, that's a fair amount to pay for learning something new. And when we speak of that idea that I'm going to get a plagiarized book right now, that's just a way of kind of justifying something that's just unacceptable.
Reducing
So
your guilt.
for reducing your guilt, absolutely, it's like slapping someone and saying, hey, I just did it because I was in a bad mood. That's not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
So that's my take on plagiarism, and promoting plagiarism in that way. And when we talk of students specifically, I kind of respect the fact that yes, there are challenges and finances when they are dealing with it, but then again, it is a choice, right? There is a student who's kind of struggling to get the books and read it, and there are people who are just plagiarizing it, and they are reading plagiarized books. So I think that's just a lame excuse for it. If you really are interested in learning something, you better take out that investment, from the other things that you are spending. So that's my take on it completely.
Yeah, and on the contrary, a lot of people actually they by choice they purchase the book, saying the fact that if I invest money,
True.
I'll make sure that I read through it, and I'll make sure that I learn out of it,
Yes.
because that puts
Yes,
a value of
absolutely.
investment. Yeah. So
True. That's true. And also, like, just adding to this point is, I meet a lot of people in the workshops, and I kind of know that for a fact they are really interested into investing something, just for the sake that, hey, if I am writing the other day, I would also want people to buy it, not just to give it out for free. So that's also the positive side of the same thing.
yeah. So on the same note, on the same point, I know for a fact that there are like legally allowed applications available on Google Play Store that that put out all these books for free. There are websites that are active on Google server on google.com. You don't have to use any VPN or something. Just one
Yeah.
click and you're away from all the books in the world. They are available for free. They are available to
Yes.
download and read for free, unlimited access. I want to know that the book market is a huge market. There are big names involved. There are big businesses involved. There are big
Yes.
money involved. Why doesn't this entire machinery of the book market legally shut down all these people who run these applications or who run these websites? Why is it impossible to legally shut them down?
True. So, see, I think one very big factor here is, the copyright-free books. So when you don't have a copyright on your text, anyone can kind of copy it, use it, and say that, hey, this is for free. That is a very big legal clause that a lot of authors are just not aware of. When they start writing, they're like, hey, it's okay, I am going to give this to the publisher. It's upon them how they want to publish it. But that's wrong, right? Being an author, you have to take complete ownership of what you have written. That's one. Second is also the consumption. So you really need to kind of stop the usage of plagiarized books. Going and downloading free books, that really needs to stop, because that's when they're not going to have a market. So it's more than legal, it's, I think, something that we as readers have to imbibe in ourselves. As much as it seems that, hey, that international book that I was getting for 600 on Amazon, I can get it on a plagiarized website for free, I'm going to get it. We need to stop having that that lucrative thing in mind. So it's more about the consumption that needs to stop. And of course, the copyright fact is a very important legal aspect.
Okay, so I had not expected this copyright thing to come. So hold on. The copyright point, I got it, that as a writer, you need to protect your work. But I know of big names, and I'm pretty much sure that the publication house is taking care. So they have in place all the rights, all the copyright thing and all. Still,
Sure,
their books
sure.
are published and uploaded on these plagiarized websites.
Okay.
What you answered from the reader's point of view, that as a reader you should have the courtesy to purchase the book. I get it, and I completely support it. But
Yeah.
from the marketing standpoint, from the business
The
standpoint of the
publisher's
writers,
point.
yeah, why can't they
Mm-hmm.
legally, shut these books down or challenge these legally and get their business approved?
Right. See, so I think there are a lot of permutation and combinations when we talk about legal rights, right? So there are books that are completely free to be used by anyone and everyone, like all the classics right now. I think it's about 60 plus years, you kind of lose the copyright on it, right? So that is one reason anyone can download a book and say, hey, I've written it and I'll be publishing it for free. That is one reason. Also, there are a couple of other things also, I'm sure, that are in the background, which everyone can play around. For a fact that, when you have to do something and you know how to play around the words, you can kind of do it in the legal base as well. So I think that's the primary reason. I am unsure about the fact that, as you asked, that why the bigger publishers, when their books get plagiarized, how can they not control it? So that I am really unsure about. I don't really have a clue about that.
Yeah, cool. Next, what I wanted to ask you about was that there are certain books that actually teach you technical stuff. Like you, for
Uh-huh.
example, suppose there's a book that learn Photoshop in 7 days. Now you need to read through
Yeah.
every page of that book if you actually want to
Sure.
learn Photoshop.
Sure.
There are certain books which I call the Chetan Bhagat types. So these are story books. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to go through the story. Now, with YouTube being a big part of the game, there are certain book review people on YouTube. And what I've noticed is
Yes.
that these guys, in 5 to 10 minutes video, they speak through the entire story. Like it's sort of like they in the name, the title is that I'm reviewing this book, but they are necessarily not reviewing this book. They just narrate the thing
Yeah.
that okay, there was
The
this
whole
character,
story.
this was the protagonist, this was the hero, heroine. They had a kid, they fought this, that, the end. They speak out the entire story. And as a viewer, if I've heard the story, there are very less chances that I'm going to buy the book and actually read it once again, because I know that okay, this is going to happen. In a way, the book is what word is over here is that he has spoiled the book for me. The spoilers are released. So, as a book writer, what do you think? Like, what are your opinions if someone tomorrow reviews your book just the second day of release?
Sure. I absolutely get, the question, and I agree with you that this is really something that you shouldn't be doing. Bad for the readers, bad for the writers as well. And I remember a few years back, I think this was Preeti Shenoy's live, that someone had asked her that, I'm going to put this review up, and this reviewer was giving all the details about it. The author very politely, just said that, why do you have to post things that kind of just tell my whole story? And that's absolutely, sure shot wrong, that you would not want to do this, to your own story, that you've built something over a year. An author is kind of investing that year and a half in publishing. As you mentioned, there are people who are investing insanely into the marketing part as well, and then just one day you pick up a book and you're like, hey, I'm going to tell you everything, just a 100 rupee copy that you've bought, and you've just cut the readers who would be picking up the book. So I feel that this is legit unethical to do that, and it's really wrong in terms of the writer's hard work as well. So people who are doing that should really stop to kind of review books and give up anything and everything about it.
Okay, so in your opinion, how much and what all things should be included in a book review video?
Sure. And that's again a brilliant question. So when you talk of a book review, so people need to understand that book reviews are not just telling the whole story. It's about building what this book is about, like the theme of the book, and giving out the details as to why one should read it. That doesn't mean you tell the climax and say that, hey, that's amazing. You rather say that the climax is good, it has a nail-biting finish. So give the character traits, or the traits of the writer's writing, rather than giving away the story. That's something I feel a book review should include. Also, book reviews are personal, right? So you have to include something that you feel about the book, not something that what others should be feeling about the book. So for me, the problem kind of comes here, that the book reviewers right now, they want to just teach everyone that, hey, this is the story about, the writer doesn't know how to write, this is how they should write. That's not how you should be doing it.
Yeah.
Criticize, because writers, me being one, I really love reading the criticism around the book. It makes me feel that someone actually invested time in giving me a critical feedback. That's amazing. But when you are writing a book review, do not just go on and on selling your opinion so much that the others just don't feel like reading it anymore. Let them read up and decide. No. So for me, a book review needs to include what the book is about and why one should read it, the important factors, and then your opinion about the book. You did not like it, all right, just say that I did not like it because of the following points. Do not start selling it from the first line that this book is just horrible, I'm not going to read it ever, you should also not read it. You don't want to decide that, right? So I don't think that should be part of the book review.
Yeah. So next I wanted to ask is about a true video which is still up on YouTube, like it's literally there. So this video is about a motivational speaker, a kind of famous motivational speaker. He put out a video training other guys that if you want to become a motivational speaker, these are the steps that you need to follow. In one of his steps, he says that, and these were his into inverted comma wordings. He said, तुम एक book लिख लो, उससे तुम्हारी authority दिखती है कि अच्छा ये भाई साहब ने book लिखा हुआ है. So that shows that okay, he is some big legend, he's some learned person, and that's why he has a book to his name. Now, because right now in all the other forms of media, it's easy to produce. A video is easy to produce. A podcast, a book, someone feels that okay, this guy has an authority, and that thing is being misused a lot. Wherein books right now are not being. So if there is a pipeline, and here is the market. This side to the pipeline is people who are pushing books out of the pipeline to the market. The people over here of the pipeline, this number has increased a lot because now it does not just consist of core writers. This consists of a lot of people who are just using books as a medium to market their products, and that has spoiled the entire book industry. It makes like okay, हर दूसरे इंसान की अपनी book है. So do you think, like, what are your views about this thing?
True. So when you say that book लिख दो authority बन जाएगी बोलना बहुत आसान है, ठीक है. It's very easy to kind of just say that हाँ लिख दो book. लिखना भी तो एक चीज है ना. आप ऐसे ही कुछ भी crap तो नहीं लिख के publish कर सकते हो. And if you are doing it just by investing into the marketing of something else, you're not going to reach out to an audience that's interested in reading. You're just using it as a marketing tool. I agree that it kind of spoils the market because, as you said, that every other person can then get up and say that, hey, I've written something. But here, Maurice, there's one point I would really want to highlight. Even in the whole marketing process, even if you're taking as a tool, if you're producing good content, no, if you're really helping your readers with entertainment or information or inspiration, it's still good. You're producing some good content. Maybe it's for I would say self marketing or self help. But if you're just writing crap and publishing it, I think you really need to stop, because at the end of it, it's like a negative marketing to your brand as well. Because one person picking up the book, reading the content that's horrible, and then coming to you, that person would never associate with you. So I think what's more important is to produce good content. ठीक है, आप अपने लिए करो. You want to become a motivational person and you're doing it, do it. But then at least, benefit your readers in some way, benefit the people who are reading it in some way. So here, I think I really look at it from the time investment of the reader, that if as a reader, I am investing, say, 3 hours into reading a book, I should at least have some bit of it, right? At least 10% should be valuable to me. So I think that's what's important. And if you're really writing something crappy just for, saying that, hey, I've published, it's actually negative marketing for yourself. So you should really stop doing it right away.
Yeah, this thing, as you mentioned, this thing is happening. Okay, in the physical book copy, it's happening still way less. In the ebook section, it has reached another level wherein every company in the world is giving out free books, just so that when you hit the download button, you have to enter your email that goes into their funnel, so that you keep receiving newsletters and mailing lists and all. And that the ebook market is very flooded. It's like everyone wants to put out, and the ebook, as you said, quality content, right? The ebook does not consist of, it's like a 30 to 40 page ebook, and it is just things which you can get on the first click of your Google page. That is the information that they provide in the ebook.
Yeah. So again, like, the page does not kind of define the quality for me. We are kind of working on one book right now that's just a 11 to 12 page book, but I know for a fact that every word that the author has written in it makes so much sense, when you're reading it. So I think the quality doesn't really come from the page, but I know where you are coming from, that, if you're just using the information from Google and you're just kind of rephrasing it and putting it up, it doesn't really make sense. It's not going to benefit you in any way also. So I think, that part, that thing really needs to be reconsidered for a lot of people who are doing it.
Yeah. So next, what I wanted to ask you was that this was the entire book segment, writing for books and all.
Yeah.
There is another segment which is technical content writing. I think a lot of people after their college, the first job that they get is either in a BPO or as a technical writer, wherein they write stuff. I have been I have been in both sides. I've even been in a BPO and as a technical content writer. That's why I know both sides of the coin, and I know for a fact that what these guys do. They tell you to write an article which is, let's say, top 9 GIF making apps on Play Store. And what these technical writers do is they open Chrome, they type this thing in the first page of Chrome. The first 10 websites they open side by side on Chrome. In each tab there is a website open. They read through 9 websites. The 10th article is ready by default. Do you think this is wrong in a way? Like, although you are doing it not for something creative, like these are mostly repetitive stuff, this is mostly information, but do you think it still kind of harnesses plagiarism? Because these guys for a sure know that it is plagiarism. That's why they go on these anti-plague websites which change the wordings into active, passive and all, and that's when the article is uploaded on Google. So do you think this, from a creative point of view, this is something that hurts the writer, or is it just information to itna chalta hai?
Sure. So इसमें दो चीजें हैं. One is that technical writing and creative writing are two different things, right? So technical writing is one. The other one is creative writing. Creative writing, we've discussed at length that plagiarism is a big no-no. Technical writing, again, plagiarism is a big no-no, but here the company that you're working for in terms of your content writing or in terms of building, technical content, the rules or the checklist of that company becomes really important. So as you said that, this is the way in which people work. ठीक है, 10 tab खोले, एक paragraph बनाया और एक आपका वो बन गया. Now this is how you are promoting your employees to work, or how you want your freelancers to work. When having worked in content writing, having working for a lot of clients in technical sector, I don't think that's exactly how we work it out. We kind of have our opinions into it. There is source content, yes. There is a content chunking that's required, yes. And there is a lot of inputs that you put into it as a writer as well. So for a fact, I would say it depends also upon the process of the company you're working with. If you're really producing something just for the sake of it कि हाँ ठीक है मुझे 10 ब्लॉग लिखने हैं, तो in that case तो obviously आपको यही करना पड़ेगा ना. You would not have the time for the source content analysis, you would not have time for content analysis, you would not have time for brainstorming. However, I also have worked for people, and I have been following this in our company as well, where we add value to the technical part. We know for a fact that okay, we are writing something. If this goes on the web and someone is reading it, we want to make sure this is just not another article. So I think it also depends upon the process and the time investment on the brainstorming part. So source content obviously would be the same, but how much time are you investing in order to build content from that source content? So that is important. And personally speaking, for our company, we spend a lot of time in order to research about that source content, work on it, and then see okay, what can we do to this article. Sometimes if you're writing about say hardware, like there are technical things that you have to include about it. You can't really include too much creativity into it. However, you can play with the structure, you can play with the way you are narrating that listicle or article. So I think that brainstorming is one of the most important segments of content writing, which every company should be following. True. I mean, this is not even something additional. This is the basic of content writing, right?
True. Connecting a point to this same point about technical writing, which I said that a lot of people after college just start out with this thing, and a lot of people actually have this doubt that okay, if you become an employee in a company, that is a different thing, that you get a monthly salary. But if you're working as a freelancer, if you just take up gigs from let's say 5 different companies, how should a like a starting technical writer price himself, in your opinion?
Okay, so it kind of depends on the complexity. If you're doing a basic job, I think starting with the 0.25 per word is also fine. If you're doing a really complex job, like you're researching 3 hours 4 hours on something and then producing really quality content, going up to say 1.5 per word is also fine. That is what I would suggest. It does not mean that this is the fixed rate that you should be following. You can kind of you need to decide that how much effort am I putting into this, and charge for the effort and not for the word count is what I would suggest.
Understood. So right now in the writing space, you have a good name. People can just find you a Google click away. Assume you are starting out as a new, fresh freelance writer, writing for different companies, as I said, and you quote your rates to someone that hey, I would be asking for X rupees per word. These guys cut it down to 25% of your quoted amount. How do you negotiate? Because you do not have any backing, and I've met a lot of writers whose mindset goes in this way that dude, this is the work that I'm at least getting. If I say no to this, I as such have got no work in my hand, so I'm as such wasting my days. Better start writing, even if they are paying me 5 paise 10 paise per word. So in this scenario, when the person starting out does not have a pipeline of work, how does he negotiate? On what grounds? Because he is always in the fear that kaam chala jayega. So how does negotiation?
I think so one negotiation not only in writing but any field depends upon how necessarily do you need to work, right? So for me, I wouldn't say there is a thumb rule to negotiating. That's something that's personal to every person. Every person has a separate way of negotiating with clients and people. So it depends upon how much you need it and how well can you negotiate. So that's not something we can discuss and have 5 pointers for negotiating. It's something very personal to me, that any person working on something knows how much value are you adding to that, right? Also adding to it, when you said that this is something that anyone can do, so I think at that point of time you need to figure out the niche in yourself, that where are you different from others, where are you the person who is inevitable, that without you the company would have to think that yaar is bande ne kaam kiya tha waisa hona chahiye. So I think figuring out that USP also is very important if you're a freelancer.
True. Next I wanted to ask you was that I have heard a lot of writers say that dude, writing does not make money, at least in India. Like with the market we have, with the customer demographics we have, a big chunk in the very first place does not buy books. Secondly, the one who buy books, they don't buy looking at the title or looking at the story content. They'll buy saying कि, okay, he's my favorite author. Even if he puts out anything, even if he puts out content that I do not care about, I would still buy that book. Like they don't experiment with authors. They have a set choice, 4 or 5 authors. They only
Yeah.
purchase those books. So that's
Hmm.
why this guy, like I've said, heard a lot of people say that as a new writer, when no one knows you, when you are even not famous on media or nowhere, it's very tough to earn money out of writing, because like a big chunk goes to the publishing house as their commission fee and all. So how do things work at that point of time?
Yeah, so I think that when you're talking of getting into the new field, obviously any creative field, it takes time to establish yourself. It is going to take time here as well, right? So it is the practical truth that once you come in, you have to hustle, make that effort to be known, to be reaching out to people more than even being known. I think it's about gathering the readership that's interested in reading what you have written. So it does take time, and I feel that the patience part is important. So when you're starting to write, you really need to be patient about it, that it's okay, it will work. So I think, yes, that's true, and that is something that we have to deal with.
Yeah, understood. So next, what I wanted to ask you is that for someone like right now, you know the tricks of the art. That if you're writing out a book,
Yeah.
these are the four
Yeah.
five things which you need to take care of. For someone not knowing what are the
No,
basic,
I don't think there are any tricks for writing.
yeah, as in
I
not
mean,
tricks,
when
not
yeah,
okay. So these are not that
yeah,
thing. Okay, follow these and you will be famous. So this is not
yes, yes,
this is not that type of thing. I'm asking that.
yeah.
What are the few basics which you need to get sorted when you're starting out with your first book? Like इतना fix कर लेना, things would be great.
यार मेरे को ऐसे लगता है that when you are starting up, it's really important to have everything fixed beforehand. मतलब you really need to be sure about your story. You need to be sure about what narration you want to follow, because I'll tell you the reason of it as well. You're writing for say 8 months, 9 months, sometimes a year and a half, 2 years as well. So at that point of time, you as a person are also evolving, right? So when you keep evolving, you kind of add too much details into the story, the way you did not want when you started. So for
Yeah,
me, I would suggest figure the story out first. You should know the details of the story, and after that, you start writing it. I think that's going to help you a lot, because you won't digress too much. You won't want to scrap it off, because once you believed in it, so believe in the idea and brainstorm before you start.
understood.
That's what I was saying.
So
Yeah,
ending this podcast with the last question, what are
sure.
your top 5 book recommendations and why do you recommend that particular book?
Sure. So, number one is Custody by Manju Kapoor. I mean, that's a book that I read, I think, in 2015, and it's been my favorite since then, because the great characterization it has of the characters, I haven't seen someone else doing it better. So, that's one book. The second one I would say is Funny Boy by Sham Selvadurai. If you kind of, are interested into knowing the political histories, and also understanding a coming of age story of a person, I think that's done brilliantly in this book. Then I would say one book that touched my heart, even when it did not have say too many narrative techniques or something. It's A Test of My Life by Yuvraj Singh. I mean, that book has a lot of emotions, and you would see raw emotions in it. I mean, when you're reading it, you will just see so many raw emotions. I ended up crying at places, when Yuvraj was going through it. So I think that becomes my third recommendation. The fourth one I would say is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I mean, a good book to read. If you're interested in feminism, nothing like it. You can just read through the whole book and, understand the perspectives. And at number five, I mean, I have too many things going on, but I would say I would perhaps suggest. I would say The Last Wish by Ajay Pandey. So I kind of read it, when the launch just happened. I visited it, and the next day I picked it up, and I was going through it, and I kind of felt the connect with the story. And one part about this book again is not the language, it's not the narration, it's nothing but the story. So again, when you have a strong story, you can reach out to people, is what I feel. So yeah, but I also have like more recommendations.
Yeah.
If you're into plays, you read Othello, you read your Shakespearean drama, Waiting for Godot. I mean, these are plays I've read in my literature, right? And I really enjoyed them. If you're interested in poetry, there is Kamla Das, there's, Vikram Seth that you can read. And I think Kamla Das, nobody else can kind of write conversational poetry like she does.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I can go on and on, so I will better stop on this.
Yeah. Just on a last note, I know that I mentioned that was my last question, but looking at this thing, I just remembered one thing which I wanted to ask. I like very specifically study all the different creative professions. Now that could be stand-up comedy, that could be YouTubing as a thing, that could be podcasting, that could be anything. I do not know much about books, but I know about all the others. And what I know about all the others is that every creative profession in the world, that would also include being an RJ, has an element wherein every creative professional whom I've spoken with, they have said that there is 60% what you do for the money, and then there's 40% which you do to satisfy your creative instinct. That happens in YouTube as well. Like 60% of the content you push out, it's because brands support such type of content, and because the viewers would want you to make such type of content, and there's 40% which you at your core want to push out. What is the ratio in writing? Like how much do you do for the money and how much do you do for your creative satisfaction?
See, I kind of see it for myself as 100% when I'm writing for myself and writing, because less than 100% you'll never be able to complete a book, right? And once you're marketing it, then it is 100% for the sales. So it has to be a two-step process. When you are writing, it has to be 100% for yourself and the story that you are trusting in. And when you're publishing, it is trust in that story and the money that you're making. So for me, if you ask me, I think in two ways, it is 100% of the writing part initially, and then 100% of making money. At that point of time, it's not really about, hey, I'll go and change what's there in my book. No, it's about selling the book. So you first work on the story so much so that you're 100% and 130% sure of it. And then when you're marketing, it's about, promoting the book. So for me, it's like a twofold process.
Understood. Thank you so much. So that was the
thing,
that was my entire bothering for you today.
No. Thank you so much. It was really insightful and great. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much.